What's up guys, this is Coach Grant with First Down Training, and today we're going to be talking about 10 different press releases that all wide receivers need to know. We're going to explain the name of each press release, when to use it versus different defensive coverages, and then we're going to show you a full speed example of each one. Now fellas, this orange cone is going to represent the line of scrimmage, and this blue cone is going to represent where the DB would be playing if we were facing press coverage. So this first release you're going to talk about is a kickstep speed release, and this kickstep is going to build into the next 4 or 5 releases that we're going to discuss in this video. So a speed release is where you just take off and just beat this DB who's inside leverage. That's the keys, inside shade on this with speed to the outside, whether you're running a fade, a comeback, an out route. It's just you use this when you are simply faster than the DB. But to give you a little bit more speed off the ball, you take your back foot and all you're going to do is you're just going to kick as quickly as you can. Not a big step, it shouldn't be like this, but just slightly behind your front foot. Pretend like there's a bug even with your front foot behind you that you're trying to step on. And the goal is to load up your hips so your first step out of there can be a little bit more explosive and you can get off the ball. So we're going to show you how this should look full speed. Now this next release, fellas, is going to be our kickstep wide step release. So we were trying to make this look exactly like our speed release, except we were putting the brakes on with my outside foot to release back to the inside. So we like this when a DB is head up coverage or outside leverage. If he's head up coverage, I like this when I'm running an inside breaking route like a post, a dig, a curl, and I'm trying to move him off the platform. So it's the same first step, same exact speed, same exact body language going to the outside. So you're going to kick behind, throw your hip to the outside. Your hip has to go in this direction. You need to step outside of the DB's frame, aka outside of his shoulders, and then release back to the inside. So this is a great release to build off of your speed release to get that DB to jump to the outside so we get the separation back to the inside. So we're going to show you how this should look full speed. Now this next release, fellas, is going to be called our kickstep crossover release. So we like this when a DB is lined up inside leverage. So the reason why we like it versus inside leverage is we are trying to attack his leverage, essentially make him think you're going to the inside. Anytime a DB is lined up inside shade on us, like if my left foot's up and he's shaded to the left, he's trying to not let me run an inside breaking route and force me to the sideline. So a lot of receivers, if they're not faster than this guy and a speed release won't work, they'll just take off, but that guy will reroute him and force him to the sideline. Make him think that we are going to the inside to move him so you get more separation to the outside. So it's just like a crossover in basketball. You're going to take that same kick step. It's not going to be as big of a first step as that wide step release we just did. It's going to be a kick, small step, stays inside your frame, but it's a quick step and you're going to push off of it to sell like we're going to the inside, and then we release back to the outside. So it's just a simple 1-2 step in the direction you are going first. So we're going to show you how this should look full speed. Now this next release, fellas, is something called a split release. We like a split release versus a DB who's lined up in head up coverage because on a split release you can either release to the outside or to the inside because of your foot placement and you simply doing something called coming to balance. So a split release is exactly how it sounds. If my left foot is up, that foot specifically needs to go out, back foot goes straight up. A lot of people on a split release think both feet have to go wide, but if you do that, that puts you in a very unathletic base and it's hard to get off the line of scrimmage like that. Your front foot goes out, back foot goes up, and both feet hit the ground at the exact same time. So the reason why we like this versus head up is if that DB shades to the inside, I could just push off of this foot and go to the outside. If I'm here, DB shades to the outside, I could push off the outside foot and go inside. Now, he may just sit there, then it's based on the route that you're running. If I'm running a fade, would love to go outside. So I split, he stays outside. Let's say I'm running a post, he stays, split, I'd love to go inside. So you could go either way, which is why split release is great to use versus head up press. So we're going to show you a full speed example of this now. Now this next release, fellas, is going to be something called a split sway release. So this is a variation of the split release that we just discussed, but now pre-snap, the DB is either inside shade or outside shade. You could sway either way, but we're going to be discussing it when he's inside shade press because more than likely that's what you'll see, at least if you're an outside receiver. So it's the same split release. Front foot goes out, back foot goes up. But since he's inside leverage, we don't want to just split and not give him anything threatening as leverage. So instead of stepping or instead of doing that crossover, you split and you're just going to sway. So that just means your body weight is going to shift into your hip, your chest, your belly button are going to go in this direction, feet are still going to stay grounded to make him think we're releasing inside to get him to move, protect his leverage, and then release outside. So remember, it's the same twitch, it's just a sway, and then we release opposite of the way that we sway. So I'm going to show you how this should look full speed. Now fellas, this next release is something called a split diamond release. So it builds off the split and it also combines a release called the diamond release, which is how you would run a slant route versus inside shade press. So this is kind of like 2-in-1 almost in a sense. So we talked about the split, let's talk about a diamond release. Diamond release, DB's inside shade, you have to run a 3-step slant. I'm not gonna be able to release inside if he's disciplined. If he holds his leverage, protects his leverage, he's gonna reroute me too far to the inside, and that's gonna screw up spacing on the play, and also I'm getting jammed, which screws up timing with my quarterback. So what I have to do is I have to attack his outside shoulder and outside hip for 3 hard steps. Plan on the 3rd, I need to be selling fade, swap by, slip back underneath him. Now, a disciplined DB, unless a speed release is your go-to release and you're faster than this guy, might not bite on that. You might need to do a release that you would use on a fade route and then combine the diamond release to it. So that could be a crossover, but we're gonna use a split. So let's say you like the split release. You split, first step out of there, 1, make him think it's more like a fade because that's a release you would use on a fade. 2, 3, brakes on and slip back underneath him. So we're gonna show you how that should look, full speed. So fellas, these next releases that we're gonna be discussing are all gonna be like hesitation based. So it's kind of like a way to get this DB to stop his feet, second guess what we're doing, and then we beat him with speed. It's like we're going 0, 100, right? So this first release is called a Hezy skip release, and it's just a skip and go. So you see receivers like Devontae Adams, Keenan Allen, Justin Jefferson do this type of stuff because when a DB's inside shade and he sees you kind of hesitate out here, he's expecting us to try to lull him to sleep, move him off the platform, then cut back inside. So we could use that to our advantage when we want to release to the outside. So the start of this release is with the kick step, like we talked about on the speed release, that wide step, that crossover that we talked about earlier in this video. So you're gonna kick, skip, take off. So it's a hop with your left foot. So it's right, left, take off. That's all it is, you guys. And when you skip, you need to make sure that you are going on a 45-degree angle. If you do it flat, and that DB sits and you try to go vertical, he's just gonna cut off our angle. So we're trying to force him into making a decision. So you go here, you skip, you're either gonna beat him or he's gonna jump and we're gonna slip back underneath him. We'll talk about that in a second. That's the next release that we're going over. But it's important, 45 to make him make a decision, slow down his feet, then beat him with speed outside. We're gonna show you how this should look full speed. So now this next release, fellas, like we mentioned, is gonna be that Hezy skip into a jab. So you could work this versus really any type of leverage that a DB shows you. If it's inside leverage, it's like when you skip and he like overcommits to it. Maybe he expects you to take off vertical and you can just put the brakes on and release inside. He could be head up and you're trying to get him to jump outside, or he could be outside leverage and you're trying to attack his leverage to the outside. So it's the same exact thing, we're just adding on 1 step. So it's kick behind, load up your hips, skip, jab, then release back to the inside. So we're gonna show you how this release should look, full speed. Now this next release, fellas, is very, very similar to that skip and go release that we discussed 2 releases before this one. This is more so for guys who don't like the skip. I feel more comfortable with this slide, but some guys like the skip. It just kind of is based on what you like. And the thing about the receiver position is it's not one size fits all. There's many different ways to beat press, hesitate off the line, give a move. It really comes down to what you like, what you're comfortable with, and what you feel comfortable using in an actual game scenario. So this slide is the same deal. You're trying to slide on that 45 to make him make a decision, slow the tempo to slow his feet down, and then you take off and go. If he jumps, you could always put the brakes on and release inside like we talked about with that skip release, but we cannot go flat on this. So if I go flat and he stays, then I try to go vertical, he could cut off my angle. So the release starts with the jab step with your left foot. It's just a subtle step. We're not trying to sell anything. It's like you're pushing off of a platform. Think of it like that. So all you're doing is you're here, jab step, slide, drag the left foot as you slide, and then take off and go. Reason why we drag, a lot of guys do this and they almost hop into it, and it's just like their feet are too narrow, it's very uncomfortable. You drag and reach with the right to slow the tempo down, but also to maintain your base. So if you do get hand contact, you're not completely knocked off balance because your feet are too close together. So we're gonna show you how this release should look full speed. This is a slide and go, and then we'll build into another variation of the slide release. Now this next release, fellas, we were trying to make it look like a slide and go release, but this is gonna be a slide crossover release. And this is only used on a slant route versus inside shade press. So remember we talked about a diamond release, right? Where you go 3 hard steps, outside shoulder, swap by, slip underneath. So remember how I said the reason why we do the split into the diamond is to make it look more like a fade. So let's say you use that slide and go on a lot of fade routes, on a lot of outside releases, and you wanna make your slant always look like your fade. So what you're gonna do, it's the same jab, slide, make sure your feet are inside your frame, left, right, to make it look like we're just taking off and going to the outside, get the DB to jump, and you slip back underneath. It's always good to have multiple tools in your tool belt in terms of how to run routes versus certain coverages, but this is a great way to run a slant versus inside shade press.